सेव किया था ना?
मैं सिर्फ इसलिए गया था क्योंकि उसने मुझे कॉल किया, that's it. But listen though.
Save it for someone else.
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो, सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा। इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Hi, I'm Praveen Swami and welcome back to this week's edition of Process, the show at ThePrint where we discuss all things geopolitics, national security, and the top events of the week. I'm joined this week by Gul Bukhari, Pakistani commentator and observer of politics who lives in London, and Khalid Butt, who many of you will know as a political satirist from YouTube, but trust me, has been a journalist before he found better things to do with his life. Thank you so much to both of you for making the time. And today, a topic which is an unusual one. This week, audio tapes purported to be explicit sexual conversations between former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan and a woman we don't know, but whose identity has been speculated on as a political aide of his, leaked online. I'm not going to trouble you with the details of that sexually charged conversation. I suspect it sounds like any other aging, middle-aged man like myself doing terrible things on phone chat, which nobody after the age of 12 should do. We'll come to some of what's disclosed in those conversations, but I thought I'd start by asking Gul what the political significance of this conversation is, because it comes at a very fraught time in Pakistani politics. Can you just help give Indian viewers some context to these very bizarre conversations?
Thank you, Praveen. And Khalid Butt has not just been a satirist on YouTube, but on several news channels, and he's been blowing the place apart. Him and his friends and cousins, and they had a four-man show and a banana news network and God knows what not. So anyway, political significance. The first question to be addressed here, because people are Imran Khan and his followers are on this high horse that these are personal matters. Should we even be discussing them? I think that's where we should start. Should personal lives be brought into the political discourse? I think that merits a discussion. The problem here is, I think this particular, it's distasteful, correct? What we heard is distasteful, but the problem is that this is a gentleman who has been at pains using Islam and morality, Amar bil Maroof, Riyasat-e Madina, Tasbih, Namaz, videos of his namaz, and his the fact that he says that yes, I used to be a playboy, but no more. I received Islam, something happened, and I'm now a Nek Parsa. And he said things like, God has been preparing me for 21 or how many years to lead the Muslim Ummah the way he prepared the Prophet Muhammad. So the hypocrisy of a political leader, this entire, his hypocrisy has been demonstrated by millions of other things. But now this is a new aspect, which, by the way, everybody knew about it, right? I think in the subcontinent, in Europe, everywhere, all of this was known. But for something like this to happen and to substantiate it, I think where it has its place in politics is that he has used morality and Islam and all of that to further his political career. And then he turns around and says, these are personal matters. And his supporters say, this is a personal matter. Don't talk about it. And very interestingly, I remember just about a year ago, Khalid Bhatt, there was this kissa of Tanseem Sazi that got around about Talal. So the thing is that, wherever he can, he uses personal information of other people for political gain and to damage others. And indeed, the kind of things that he has been using against others are not necessarily true, right? But this leak, even though we are going to call it a purported leak of Imran Khan's conversations, but the fact remains that it's been 4 days and he has not denied it. That is a fact. In fact, he has not made a single statement. He has stopped doing khatab.
So, Gul, frankly, if that was a tape of me or any friend of mine which had leaked, I would advise them also to keep a very low profile afterwards. But Khalid, I had a question for you. In Europe, we've had many politicians with various kinds of, sexual scandals. You had Silvio Berlusconi with that famous bunga bunga thing. You had Francois Mitterrand, whose mistress showed up at his, last rites while his wife was also there. Various things. In our context, why do we take personal piety so seriously? As Gul says, even this whole business of being pious and holy is a big part of Imran's persona. What is it that makes us or that fosters hypocrisy in our cultures in the first place?
For me, actually, मैं थोड़ा सा गुल से डिसएग्री करूंगा. उसकी वजह ये कि एक तो हमने ये सोच लिया है कि ये जातियात है किसी की, अगर फॉर एग्जांपल, और उनके लीडर के लिए भी, और ये लीडर है या नहीं है, सवाल इसका नहीं है. मेरे ख्याल में अगर ये मैं भी हूँ या कोई भी XYZ आदमी हो, ये काम कोई भी करे गलत होगा, हमें इनको लाना पड़ेगा. क्योंकि अब इनके पास ये प्ली है कि जी ये तो जाती जिंदगी है. मैं तो कहता हूँ कि जाती जिंदगी, अगर ये मेरी जाती जिंदगी भी है, आपकी भी, किसी की भी, तो ये काम दुनिया के हर जगह पे गलत ही होगा और उसको गलत कहना चाहिए. तो उससे तो हम निकल आते कि भाई वो लीडर है तो वो अलग है या जाती जिंदगी अलग है. बिल्कुल ऐसा नहीं है. अगर वो आम आदमी भी होता और इस तरह की टेस्ट मेरी भी आएंगी तो मैं गलत हूँ. तो ये इस पर तो हमें एक क्लियर करना चाहिए बात को कि ये बहुत ही गलत, घटिया और गंदी हरकत है. और फिर उसके ऊपर बाद में अगर हम इस एज पे आ जाए तो मुझे लगता है जो आपने हमारी इस कॉन्टिनेंट सोसाइटी की बात की, उसमें ये हमें, क्योंकि ये सोसाइटी के अंदर जो एक्सेस ऑफ मादरत के साथ सेक्स है वो बहुत कम है, ठीक है. और ये हम सब के अंदर हम ग्लोरीफाई इस तरह के लोगों को करते हैं क्योंकि हम सब, और इंक्लूडिंग हिम, हम उसको थोड़ा सा पीछे ही रहे और हमने अपना एक जाली इमेज बनाया हुआ है. यहाँ पर हम अगर किसी आदमी से पूछते हैं ना तो बड़ा खुल के और बड़ा प्राउडली बताता है हमारा कोई दोस्त, यार मैंने मेरी लिस्ट में ये खातून थी, ये खातून थी, वो खातून थी. इस किस्म के लोग बात करते हैं, प्राउड करते हैं कि यार तुझे पता है कि ये मशहूर बंदी है, आई टेक दिस एंड दैट. एंड आई वाज थिंकिंग क्यों? क्योंकि वो इतने बड़े लूजर हुए जिंदगी में, उनके पास कुछ और बेचने को नहीं है, उन्होंने जिंदगी में कुछ और उस तरह अचीव नहीं किया ना, उनकी पर्सनैलिटी की कुछ खामियां हैं, वो खामियां वो उस तरह पूरी करते हैं. और ये हमें आपको बता दूं, इस कॉन्टिनेंट के आधे लोग दिल के अंदर ये कह रहे होंगे कि खान साहब यार अमेजिंग, देखा तूने गेम, ही इज 70 स्टिल ही इज एबल टू डू दिस एंड दैट. बट वी हैव टू, मतलब ये हमारी सारी कॉन्टिनेंट की जो डिप्राइव है ना सेक्स से, ये वो सामने आ रहा है. और ये वो जिसको हम माचो समझते हैं और कहते हैं कि यार ये बंदा जो है इसने तो, मतलब सोचो जी जवानी में क्या करता होगा, ये जवानी में भी गंदी करता होगा. और ये गंद ही है, लेट्स बी ऑनेस्ट, कि किसी पढ़ी लिखी सोसाइटी में भी गंद है. ये यूरोप में भी ऐसा नहीं है कि सड़कों को पड़ी सब कुछ हो रहा है. ये हमारे यहाँ के लोगों कॉन्सेप्ट है जिन्होंने कोई सोसाइटी देखी नहीं है. तो पहली बात ये कि डे वन और पहली ही मिनट में हमें पहली बात ये गलत है. चाहे वो प्राइम मिनिस्टर था या नहीं था, 2 साल पहले किया, 8 साल पहले किया, रिगार्डलेस, ये गलत, गंदी, घटिया हरकत है और उस शख्स ने हरकत की है. और उसमें और घटिया मुझे फील हुआ, हालांकि आई हेट हिम और मुझे कोई खास पसंद नहीं है जिसने सोसाइटी के साथ जो कुछ किया है. आप लोग बेहतर जानते हैं जिस किस्म की सोसाइटी से बनाने की कोशिश की, खुद उससे डिफर करता है. उससे मुझे अफसोस ये होता है कि मैं जब वो सुन रहा था, हालांकि आई एम नॉट अ फॉलोअर, बट मुझे इतना दुख हो रहा था क्योंकि मुझे घिन इस वजह से आ रही थी कि एक 70 साल का आदमी, इसकी कोई पर्सनैलिटी होगी. जब आप वेस्ट में भी मेच्योरिटी की उम्र होती है, उसके बाद आपको लोग मेच्योर समझते हैं, आपको लोग बेहतर समझते हैं सोच वाइज. लेकिन जब आप 40 साल के ऊपर जाके 70 साल में ऐसे काम करेंगे, और उस ऑडियो में अगर आपने सुनी हो तो खातून तो बेचारी डाइवर्ट कर रही थी चीजों को इधर, ये मुड़ मुड़ के आ रहा था उस पर. और ये ऐसे प्रेजेंट कर रहा है जैसे मैं शायद स्कूल में कभी 1-2 दफा किया हुई यार घटिया किसी से फोन में. तो मतलब आप सोचे कि मतलब, और मतलब डिसगस्टिंग इस वजह से कि ये उस एज में भी नहीं जिसमें उसको एज का बेनिफिट दिया जाए. गलत तो बात नहीं.
I'll come back to that last point, but one sec, Gul. I have a question here about Pakistan specifically. After the 71 war, a lot of things were blamed on Yahya Khan's debauchery, this woman, that woman, drunkenness, this and that. At various points in political history, bad decisions which led countries to ruin, bad political decisions, bad ideologies were attributed to personal failings. Is there some danger of that happening again, that instead of talking about the fact that Imran Khan injected toxic religion into public life, instead of talking about his terrible conduct of the economy, his hawkishness on regional issues, we are instead sitting around talking about who he chose to have phone sex with and ignoring the wider issue?
I think this feeds very well into the wider issue. The issue is not that the country suffers because the leader is immoral or is having phone sex. The issue with Yahya, as with Imran Khan, is that they have nothing else on their minds. They don't have affairs of the state on their mind. Now, look, even
they only have another kind of affair on their mind. Okay.
On their mind. Now, this is very interesting because Khalid Bhatt just said the poor woman is taking him here and there, and he's coming back to it. Now, on this, I have a viewpoint. What I took away from it, it is important. I differ with Khalid that privacy is important and all of that. The reason I think it's okay to discuss this is because he's hypocritical and he's led the country down that path. What was I going to say? So she's not taking him here and there. She's the one who calls him up to do his political coaching, to do his political grooming, and he's the one taking her here and there. Acha suno na. She's telling him political gossip, useful things that he can blackmail people with or make references to. And at some point she says, "Tumhe politics nahi karni." And he said, "Acha suno na, abhi tumhare bare mein soch ke," and then XYZ, right? So the kind of scandals that she's telling him, scandals that have yet to come out, specifically with regard to the Mona Salahi one, Bank of Punjab. She tells him that it will break very soon. This happened night before last, and he's not paying attention. He's giggling like an ass, right? She's trying to groom him. So he's not really, never was a politician. And the only thing that's been, and the kind of information she's giving him can only normally come from the agencies. She tells him that I'm going to give you a list of defaulters who had their loans written off. And Munis was one of them. And this is going to come out. And you need to use this information. And I think Khalid Bhatt, if I'm not wrong, I believe that at that time around 2011, I think she was a TV anchor. The kind of information she's providing him, instead, you see, anchors and journalists go to politicians to get these kind of information. Here, you see the opposite happening. So back to the fact that she seems, from this conversation, the lady seems to be a plant, and somebody put it really well कि जिस तरह बच्चे को सीरियल सेरेलैक में दवाई मिला के दे रहे हैं, so they're doing honey traps and like trying to coach him, get him interested in political gossip, manipulation, blackmail, and get him ready for where they brought him at a certain point in time, right? So we're not talking here about, instead of what he did to the economy. Look, he didn't, even in his meetings, he was always 50,000 feet high. Throughout his term, 4th floor of Prime Minister House was well known. This was his only interest, like flaying other people, and poor Aisha what was her name? Aisha Gulalai. Yes. I always believed her, but she was played really badly when she came out with gande messages karta hai, right? And you have an array of, even that woman who got harassed by the NAB chairman went to the Prime Minister House, and look what happened with her, right? Instead, he took those videos from her and then started blackmailing the chairman NAB. So this is what he's been all about.
I want to just fill in our viewers here. Aisha Gulalai was a Pakistani politician who complained about sexual harassment while she was in politics. She blamed Prime Minister Imran Khan for sending her sexually explicit messages and got
she
very
was from
severely,
his party.
From his party, and got very severely trolled for it. खालिद, I want to go back जो आपने बात की थी कि शायद बचपने में या स्कूल के जमाने में हमने ऐसे वाहियात हरकतें की होंगी, and I'm asking you this as a man. यार कोई खातून नहीं होगी पॉलिटिक्स में या मीडिया में जो ये नहीं कहेगी कि पीपल इन पॉलिटिकल ऑफिस, सीनियर पॉलिटिशियंस ने उसे हरास नहीं किया है. ऐसी कहानियां बहुत हमारे कल्चर में मामूली है. A straightforward question, जो इमरान खान ने किया है, does it tell us about Imran Khan or does it tell us about देसी men fundamentally? क्या इमरान खान की कोई खास कमी है कि ये आपके और मेरे कल्चर की और पर्सनालिटी की कोई फीलिंग्स हैं?
ये आपने बड़ा अच्छा सवाल किया है. मुझे लगता है कि अगर मैं आप सोचूं ना, तो हो सकता है कि मैं थोड़ा सा ज्यादा ओवर थिंकिंग कर रहा हूँ, बट मुझे लगता है कि इमरान खान ने अपनी जिंदगी में जो कुछ भी किया ना, इंक्लूडिंग सियासत, उसके पीछे मकसद हमेशा यही रहा है कि वो लोगों के बेडरूम्स तक पहुंचे. ये मेरी अपनी जाती रहा है, गलत भी सकती,
और उनकी जेबों तक, उनके पैसों तक.
सही हो. सॉरी,
बेडरूम्स और जेबें और तोशाखाने और उनके बैंक अकाउंट्स. बाबा
बिल्कुल. और ये अगेन ये उसकी रिफ्लेक्शन है सोसाइटी की, और ये जो है ना उसकी अपनी महरूमियों की रिफ्लेक्शन है. और इसने तो ये साबित किया है कि ना सिर्फ सियासत में या गवर्नेंस में, ये तो सच में भी बहुत बुरा है माजरत के साथ. मतलब ये इसने बताया है कि इसकी शॉर्ट कमिंग्स हैं, और ये हमेशा वहीं पे फोकस रखा. और इसका मकसद, जैसे गुल बुखारी अभी कह रही थी कि वो उसको गॉसिप दे रही थी या उसको वो इनसाइड स्टोरीज दे रही थी, और केस में निकलने वाले थे, मौन सिलाई वाला है, पंजाब वाला, बैंक वाला. बट क्योंकि इसका मकसद आज तक जो है वो पावर को उसमें ट्रांसलेट करना है जो ये करता था इससे पहले भी, और ये क्रिकेट की दुनिया में भी, और अब भी. अभी अब मैं किसी से उस दिन बात कर रहा था पाकिस्तान में, मैंने तो वो कह रहे थे, साहब यार आप क्या कहते हैं यार, मतलब ये तो हमेशा से मशहूर था कि ऐसा है. और आपको पता है, ये पता नहीं कोई उन्होंने मैगजीन का नाम लिया, उसके उस पे आता था फ्रंट पेज पे. देन आई सेड, सो इसका मतलब क्या है कि अगर उस मैगजीन के फ्रंट पेज पे आता है तो वो अलाउड है सब करने के लिए. हमने मेंटली अपने आप को और इसने लोगों को बताया हुआ जरूर है कि ये प्ले बॉय है, इसका इमेज ऐसा है, लेकिन इसने जो पिछले 3 सालों में किया है, जो इसको एक नए आने वालों ने बताया, जो इसको चला रहे थे, चाहे वो पीर साहब हो इनके, मुर्शद हो इनके, या फिर जो इनको एस्टेब्लिशमेंट से चला रहे थे वो लोग हो, कि अब तुमने ये इमेज, तुम्हारे बाकी बिल्कुल ठीक है, तुम एक पाकिस्तानी या सब कॉन्टिनेंट या इंडिया सब सोसाइटी के लिए बहुत बेहतरीन आदमी हो, हैंडसम हो, स्मार्ट हो, और तुम्हारी शक्ल अच्छी है, तुम्हारी आवाज अच्छी है, तुम जो बोलोगे वो बाय किया जाएगा. अनलाइक शहबाज शरीफ कि आपकी पर्सनैलिटी वैसी नहीं है, आपकी हाइट वैसी नहीं है, तो आपको काम करके चीजें बेचनी पड़ेंगी. इसको क्योंकि एज हासिल है कि इसकी आवाज, इसकी पर्सनैलिटी जो सारे सालों में बनी गई थी, इसके लिए चीजें बेचना आसान था, तो इसके बिना सब कुछ अपनी जगह मौजूद है, सिर्फ जो मजहबी तड़का है वो रह गया. तो आपकी जिंदगी लोग भूल जाएंगे 3 सालों में आपने जो भी किया, लेकिन खुदारा आप अब नहीं करना ये. अब आप बेचे, ये ले आपके हाथ में तस्बीह है, ये आप बेचे मजहब, और आप गेम में आ जाए. आप एक कंप्लीट पैकेज हैं, आप हैंडसम है, स्मार्ट हैं, आपने दुनिया की कोई हाथ नहीं छोड़ी, और आप अभी भी नहीं छोड़ रहे, लेकिन इसको रखे साइड में और तस्वीर लेके आगे आ जाए और ये मंजिल बेचे. तो इसके अंदर हमारी इन दोनों सोसाइटियों की, हमारे जिस तरह आपने बात की, वो सारे एलिमेंट मौजूद थे. मजहब का तड़का थोड़ा सा ज्यादा हो गया, ये आदमी कंप्लीट और तैयार आपको मिला और ये इसको लॉन्च कर देगा. लेकिन क्योंकि ये अपनी जाती जिंदगी में भी फ्लॉप था, सेक्स में भी फ्लॉप था, और एज ए सेड ये सेक्स में भी फ्लॉप ही आदमी. सॉरी अगर मैं इधर उधर
बिल्कुल, दिस इज इंटरेस्टिंग. और गुल, ये पॉइंट में थोड़ा वाइडर कॉन्टेक्स्ट में ले जाना चाहता हूँ. वांट टू टेक दिस टू अ स्लाइटली बिगर पिक्चर. We are also talking a few days after the Taliban have barred all women from university educations in Afghanistan. As you know, the Taliban had earlier banned girls. They've denied women access to healthcare, reinstituted public floggings. And the interesting thing, of course, is that Imran Khan was an avid supporter of the Taliban. He had many nice things to say to them. It seems very strange to me, this cohabitation of person who is clearly, let me put it this way, not a sexual moralist or a sexual conservative. I don't want to be judgmental about him. But this cohabitation of a very colorful personal morality with such a fundamentalist approach in matters of religion, in matters of social behavior, as an observer of the region, how do you make sense of these two sort of opposite things existing inside someone's head?
I think it's pretty simple. I don't think there's a contradiction at all. He has always just said one thing and done another. Always. He's talked about morality, done something else. Talked about sexual propriety, done something else. Talked about Muslims marrying Muslims or marrying a Pakistani woman, and the first woman he married was someone else. He's talked about corruption. The interesting thing about this fellow is that the point at which he is accusing other people of something, at that point in time, this is what he's doing. Because I used to think, where does he even come up with these accusations? Well, those are the things he's been doing, right? So I don't think there is really a contradiction. He does not have an ideology, honest to God. He goes along with whatever is expedient. And it was expedient for him. In India, he said, look, I don't want to name the Taliban because I live in Pakistan. I have to go back there. And as you know, the People's Party and the ANP were wiped out because of Taliban violence. He knew that he cannot go against the Taliban and be able to survive, right? He doesn't have that courage. So it's not that on the one hand he supports the Taliban and on the other he has this personal behavior which is diametrically opposite to, that sort of thing. The other thing that I want to link into is something that Khalid Bhatt said, that he was handed over the tasbih, that now leave all this and, go and sell religion and do our politics. Well, they didn't probably even say leave all this. Because as you know, the fourth floor, these tapes were made back in around 2011. They always knew what he was, number one. Number two, the fourth floor of the PM house kept happening. The establishment had no problem with it. Corruption, the establishment had no problem with it. Because, as you know, General Asim Munir, who is now the army chief, as ISI chief, went to him with his files of corruption, taking diamonds and whatever from Malik Riaz. And what was the result? He was posted out. Nothing was done about Imran Khan. So the tasbih and all that was literally just a front. It's not even like, he's being told, okay, now stop it. The point is, having known you see, when you guys were talking about, desi men and harassment in politics and media and everywhere, I think that is by and large true. But this is something really beyond that, right? This is beyond it. This man, whether he was a harasser or not, the point is his proclivities were known, and despite that, he was imposed on the most powerful seat in the country, where he could then sit and do whatever he liked. This says a lot more about the military establishment than about this fellow.
But I just want to, I'll take you up on that point you've just made, if I can, Gul, briefly. Why should this surprise us? So we talked about Yahya earlier. Yeah. We talked about Yahya earlier. General Ayub, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, many other people were not models, shall we say, of the highest
Yeah.
levels of personal propriety.
Yeah.
And many politicians in other parts of the world have not. Why do you hold Imran up to a higher standard?
I do not. But Yahya usurped
Hmm.
power at the zone of a gun. Whereas now, I'm not surprised. It's not that. It is that the same people, the same lineage that comes down from Yahya got hold of a civilian face and imposed it upon us. I'm not surprised. I mean, it should be up to the people to vote for someone, which is not what happened. And now it is there. People like me, other people who have been watching the country's politics knew this all along. But now it is there for the world to see. It is there with some substantial evidence. And the reason I'm calling it evidence is because 4 days he has not been able to deny it. Because I think that if he tries to deny it, more will come out and forensics will be done.
अच्छा गुल
Khalid,
सॉरी आपने कहा ना कि सॉरी मैं आपको कट करूंगा यहाँ पे
just if I can break in, ये सवाल गुल के पॉइंट पे ही पूछने वाला था कि she is saying लोगों ने हकीकत अपने सामने देखी है. आपने एक बड़े इंटरेस्टिंग पॉइंट थोड़े पहले ये बताया था कि कई इसके सपोर्टर होंगे जो कहेंगे कि ये हमारा रोल मॉडल है, क्योंकि हमें लगता है कि काश हमें भी ये मौके मिलते, हम भी ऐसे कर रहे होते. एंड तो क्या आपको लगता है कि वाकई लोग बड़े रिपल्स होंगे कि देखो ये बड़ी होली बातें कर रहा था और निकला इस टाइप का आदमी है, कि रिएक्शन रहेगा कि यार अपना लीडर तो शेर है, देखो कितना टाइगर है. मुझे याद है वो सिल्वियो बर्लुस्कोनी के किस्से के बाद मतलब हम सब रिपल्स थे कि 17-18 साल की लड़की के साथ इतने 70 ईयर ओल्ड प्लस लीडर के रिश्ते थे, प्रोस्टिट्यूट के साथ, सेक्स वर्कर के साथ. लेकिन हकीकत थी कि इटली में बहुत लोग थे जो कहने लग गए कि देखो सिल्वियो बर्लुस्कोनी ने सीनियर सिटीजन्स का सेल्फ रिस्पेक्ट रिस्टोर कर दिया है, देखो कितना टाइगर है. What is the reaction going to be? पब्लिक मूड बदलेगा कि क्या आपको लगता है कि इसके फॉलोअर, इसके सपोर्टर और इम्प्रेस होंगे क्योंकि चाहिए इनको ये?
Praveen, can I add to your question?
Sure, of course.
Khalid, but Praveen's question is essentially, are his supporters going to be, ha 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 ha, look, our leader is a share? But my question to you is, this leaked call, people who heard it, are they going to start feeling like hot, or are they going to get turned off? Like, what grade porn was this?
अच्छा चल पहले तो मैं गुल आपकी बात का जवाब दे दूं कि इतना ये एक तो होता है ना जो आपने बात की है, हॉट तो बिल्कुल नहीं है, एक इंतहाई टर्न ऑफ किस्म की डिस्गस्टिंग किस्म की कॉन्वर्सेशन है जिसको सुन के आई डाउट कि कोई ये बोलेगा देखो वाह, और वो विश कर रहे होंगे कि आयुष खान साहब ने थोड़ा सा परफॉर्म किया था तो हम उसको बड़े दिल से बता रहे थे कि चेक कर उसने जवाब
So Khalid, but
क्या
what is it that injures someone for 3 weeks? For his supporters, I want to know, and for me also, what is it that injured him?
इनका जो पिछला सवाल था ना मैं उसको भी इसमें ऐड करूंगा. जब ये बात की इन्होंने जिया या भुट्टो या उससे पहले और लोग जो आए, बात ये कि इमरान खान ने अपने आप को खुद ये कहा कि मैं जो हूँ इनके लेवल से ऊपर हूँ, एथिकली मॉरली मजहब के लेवल पे जाके चूजन वन टाइप हूँ मैं, मुझे लोग भी ये समझते हैं. इमरान खान ने अपने आप, हमने या उन लोगों ने जो एक्सपेरिमेंट किए, आई गेस उन्होंने नहीं किया, इमरान खान ने खुद अपने आप को एक और लेवल पे लिया. मैं जब एग्जाम्पल दूँ तो मैं ऐसे ऐसे बड़े मजहबी शख्सियात की एग्जाम्पल दूँ कि मुझे उसके थ्रू प्लान करके सब कुछ किया, उसने आपको मॉरली वहाँ उस सीढ़ी पे बनाया. इसके बाद अब हमें ये ज़्यादा बुरा लग रहा है, इसके बाद हमें लग रहा है कि ये ज़्यादा काबिल है कि इसको डिस्कस करें. दूसरी बात ये कि ऐसे लोग इस सोसाइटी में बिल्कुल मौजूद है. मैं पिछले 3-4 दिन से ऐसे लोगों से मिल रहा हूँ डिफरेंट जगहों पे, जो ये कह रहे हैं कि यार मतलब जो भी है, मतलब गेम तो है ना, खान तो ऊपर ही है ना, तो मतलब खान अभी तक की वीडियोस और ऑडियोज में ऊपर है, लेकिन यू नेवर नो कि आगे की वीडियोस में कि खान नीचे ना हो वरना बड़ा मसला हो जाएगा. वहां जाके ये जरूर जो है ना ट्रैश होगा इनका कॉन्सेप्ट. लेकिन मैं आपको ये भी बता दूं कि बिल्कुल ऐसे लोग भी मौजूद है जो थोड़े से एक स्टेप पीछे हो गए, जिनको ये सब बुरा लग रहा है. ये इनके दिल में मौजूद जरूर है, लेकिन उन्होंने उसको इतना ज्यादा सपोर्ट में आगे निकल गए कि अब उनके पास वे आउट नहीं है, वो वे आउट जरूर ढूंढेंगे और हो सकता है कि अगली कुछ ऑडियोज के बाद उनको वो वे आउट मिल जाए और फिर वो आराम से चुपके से इसके अंदर से निकल जाए। अभी तक बहुत ऐसे लोग हैं जो कह रहे हैं, देखो ना जिस तरह आपने इटली की मिसाल दी, तो चेक करें ना खान का गेम, मतलब यार वो 70 साल का बुढ़ा है, चेक करें गेम कैसा है यार, आइडियाज चेक करें। और अभी तो ये वीडियो की सूरत में नहीं होती, वरना वो बताते भी कि देखें इनकी पोजीशन भी बेहतर है, लेकिन चूंकि वीडियो नहीं है, ऑडियो है, तो लिहाजा कि वहां भी मुझे लगता है कि ये सियासत की तरह की परफॉर्मेंस गवर्नेंस की तरह बुरी होगी, लेकिन फिर भी चले हम बेनिफिट ऑफ डाउट दे देते हैं इनको। ये जो इन्होंने एक्सरसाइज वाले मंजन बेचता है, ये जो भागता है, ये जो अपने आप को पुशअप लगाता है, ये सब इसका टारगेट ऑडियंस है, ये उसको अचीव करना चाहता है, ये उसमें और खवातीन है, आई एम टेलिंग यू, ये सब इसी वजह से कर रहा है अपनी फिटनेस, ये बताना चाहता है उस खास टारगेट ऑडियंस जो उसके दिमाग में वही गंद है कि मैंने कुछ अचीव करना है। वज़ीर आज़म तो ठीक है, मैं बन ही जाऊंगा, पहले भी उन्होंने बना दिया था, अब भी शायद कुछ हो जाए, लेकिन ये जो इसका दूसरा एजेंडा है ना, जो इसके अंदर की अपनी बेचारे की इनसिक्योरिटीज है वो ऊपर लाने के लिए ये डिस्क्रिप्शन लगाता है, पुशअप लगाता है, बॉडी शॉडी बनाता है, इसका मकसद ही यही है। लिहाजा हम इसको बुरा जरूर उस वजह में कहेंगे कि आप इसको भुट्टो और बाकी लोगों से नहीं मिला सकते, और भी डिक्टेटर जो है और सियासी लोग जो है, इसने अपने आप को खुद एक लेवल ऊपर जाके बेचने की कोशिश की है मजहबी तौर पर।
अच्छा, मुझे एक बात बतानी है, मुझे एक बात
I'll ask you, no, this is a question. What does it tell us about the state of political parties, Imran Khan's opponents in Pakistan, including liberals, that today people have to wait for the leak of this kind of material by intelligence services or whoever gathered them in order to push back against his image? Why has he not been politically defeated on the economy, on religion? Why does this sort of mudslinging have to be the thing that brings him down?
Who is the question to? Me?
To you, Kul.
People were not waiting. People gave all manner of pushback. People spoke about the 50 lakh naukriyan, people, or the 50 lakh ghar, and pata nahi 10 crore naukriyan. People spoke about the economy. People talked about various failures, like on the diplomatic front, his trying to, Pakistan getting into a near default. People did Tosha Khana, his corruption cases. What did the people not do, right? But what had happened in the meantime, now we're going to go off into a slightly different discussion. What had happened was that the establishment has worked on his image and on spoiling or destroying the image of all other parties and politicians to an extent where people, or certain people, his support base, are brainwashed to a point where he had become a Teflon man, right? It's not like you have not heard criticism of him. I mean, he's been known as Im the Dim forever, right? And his mental prowess is zero. He doesn't understand things. He joins Germany with Japan, and he talks about light ki speed, and he talks about digging for water and gas coming out of KP and halalala. Everything has been tried, but for the longest time, the establishment was behind him. They kept him protected against all criticism. The courts were under siege. Any case against him would be finished. He got hold of videos against the chairman NAB. So his corruption cases were, and who did that for him? It was the establishment which was doing it. So it's not true that the people have been waiting for a sex tape to be leaked. We have tried everything and anything, but actively for 20 years, the establishment has been behind him, and they've subdued and muted the media. They've throttled the courts, the justice system. They've throttled the other law enforcement agencies. What do you remember that presser from the then DG ISPR who said, Musbat reporting, which is positive reporting, you will do positive reporting for 6 months and then you'll see what happens? Like, who the hell was he to tell the media to do positive reporting? So no, it's not true that people were waiting for this, right? In fact, people thought that this, if nothing else, the real issues haven't hurt him. Why would a sex tape hurt him, right? And what we see happening is now, more than the fact that this tape is hurting him, I think in stages, the establishment has been taking its sort of protection away from him. You can see a very big difference between before 29 November and post 29 November. Things have become very fast. His Tosha Khana case languished for 8 years. Now you'll see where things go. So all of that was there. And, they were supporting everything he did. For example, all his cases, whether it had something to do with declaration of assets or the money trail of Bani Gala or the, billion tree tsunami or anything, everything was stopped. So and indeed, people thought that, especially in the Desi culture, there's something very ironic. We are supposed to be quite prudish, Victorian in our values where sex is concerned. And in the West, which we consider a lot more free, libertarian or promiscuous or whatever you want to call it. Over there, when a sex scandal happens, people end up resigning. What happens in Pakistan? There are sex scandals galore and people are fine. So nobody thought this would damage him. And we're not even today, we are not discussing it because, to me personally, this is anathema. I am personally only discussing his hypocrisy.
Right. Khalid Sab, let me come to you with a last but one question, and then I'll take the same one to Gul. ये सारे रेवलेशन स्कैंडल देखने के बाद क्या आपको लगता है कि आने वाले इलेक्शंस में इमरान खान की कहानी खत्म है कि महंगाई की वजह, इकोनॉमिक प्रॉब्लम्स के वजह, ये डिनेस्टिक पॉलिटिशियंस के फ्रस्ट्रेशन में लोग अभी भी इमरान खान को सपोर्ट करेंगे? तो आई नो वी आर अगेंस्ट इमरान गोइंग टू एस्ट्रोलॉजर्स एंड डूइंग जिन स्टफ, but since he does it, let us also be a little adventurous and make a prediction.
अच्छा, मुझे ये लगता है कि ये असर पड़ेगा, ऑनेस्टली असर पड़ेगा, क्योंकि आपने जब भी परफॉर्मेंस की आपसे बात हुई है या आपसे पूछा गया है, या वो 3 साल पीछे शेडो में इस वजह से चले गए कि हमेशा बिकता ये था कि जी ये जो है बहुत ही कोई चूजन मन है और ये जो इस्लामिक वर्ल्ड को लीड कर सकता है, ये खड़े होकर जवाब दे सकता है, ये करप्ट नहीं है, ये ऐसा नहीं है, वैसा नहीं है, फलाका। बट मुझे लगता है कि अब आने वाले वक्त से बिफोर द इलेक्शन 2023 ये ऐसी चीजें आएंगी कि अब इसके बाद खान साहब का सियासत में सरवाइव करना, ना सिर्फ सियासत में बल्कि हमारी सोसाइटी में सरवाइव करना बहुत मुश्किल हो जाएगा। और हो सकता है कि साहब कहीं और निकल जाए, पाकिस्तान से चले जाएं, ये भी हो सकता है, क्योंकि वैसे बुनियादी तौर पे बहुत ही डरपोक किस्म के आदमी जेल से भी डरते हैं, थाने से भी डरते हैं, पुलिस से भी डरते हैं, और सियासत इन्होंने किसी के कंधों पे की है और उसमें इन्होंने जो अपनी इमेज बिल्डिंग की थी वो उसको बहुत बड़ा डैमेज हुआ है। और बाय द टाइम होगा जैसे जैसे और चीज़ें रिवील होंगी, और मैं आपको ये बता दूं कि लेटेस्ट चीज़ें भी आएंगी। ये तो चले हम 2012-13 की बात कर रहे हैं, बहुत जल्द बहुत लेटेस्ट चीज़ें भी आएंगी, जैसा गुल बुखारी ने कहा, फ्लोर नंबर 5 की मामलात भी आएंगे, कंटेनर के मामलात भी आएंगे, बहुत सारे ऐसे कुछ आएंगे जिसके बाद इमरान खान को सरवाइव करना सियासत के अंदर मुश्किल हो जाएगा और ये इसको डैमेज करेगा जरूर। ये
गुल बुखारी, अगेन देन लास्ट क्वेश्चन टू यू, इज द इमरान स्टोरी फाइनली ओवर?
Personally, I think it was over before these tapes came out. Honest to God, it was over. Look, even in 2008, in 2013, he managed to get not even a majority, but he was the largest party in KP with the help of the establishment. In 2018, he came, he didn't get a majority. 2.25 lakhs, 375,000 plus army personnel were posted in polling stations, and others were picked up and made to be taken away by the agriculture department and made to change parties and God knows what not. Even we were abducted and to set the narrative, and even then he did not get a simple majority. Other parties had to be coerced to join his coalition. And then his performance in government. His head was always 50,000 miles high. He had no idea of how to govern. He had talked about 200 economic experts, and you know what happened. It's there for the world to see. The economy started nosediving. And, you know, none of that, it mattered to the establishment, because obviously the economy is important in the sense that they get their big part of the pie from there. And when the falling out happened at the time of the change of DGISI, the establishment, or the military establishment, had made up its mind that he has to be gotten rid of and never again. So the point I'm trying to make is that if they have decided, and they've been burnt real bad, that they're not going to help him, his story was over even before this. But so therefore, I am not sure why exactly they're releasing these tapes, because the man does not have enough popular, but maybe they're scared that he has popular support, and the way they manufactured support from him before, now they have to demanufacture it. Maybe that's why they're doing this. But to my mind, he's finished either way.
Gul Bukhari, I will just close by saying, it's fascinating that we're having a conversation about Imran Khan in the first place, because this is a man who through much of his career made no secret of his personal life. He was asked in an interview once in an Indian magazine in the 1970s about his Indian girlfriends. And he made some crass joke to the effect about, invaders coming from the Pashtun areas to have sex with Indian women since time immemorial. This is the kind of guy he was. He was never expected anyone else. Then he goes through this extraordinary religious experience, emerges as Prime Minister of Pakistan. And here we are back to knowing that despite his extraordinary religious experience, maybe the personal transformation was not quite as dramatic as we believed. So thank you, Gul Bukhari, for joining us today from London. We also had the Pakistani satirist and journalist Khalid Butt, who was on a line from Karachi. My apologies to our viewers because it wasn't always the greatest connection possible, but I'm sure you'll understand. And I look forward to being back with you next week.